Hi, my name is Riley Maldonado, and this is my international project on Ireland. So my table of contents, first I'll be going over the history of Ireland and some of the culinary background of it as well. And then I'll be talking about the overall topography of the land and the main island, as well as some of the smaller ones. Then I'll be going over some of the flavors of the country, some of the seasonings that they used. And then I'll be going over some of the regional dishes that are very popular in Ireland. After that, I'll be moving into the influence Ireland had on America, some of the cooking methods they used in Ireland, and the regional influences from some of the countries around Ireland. And then to round it out, I'll be going over the agricultural history, a fine dining restaurant, and then after that is my references. Irish history. So Ireland is a large island right off the coast, the west coast of the UK. The history is extremely rocky, I'd say. From an early age, extremely often, Ireland lost large quantities of its population. They lost a quarter of it to the 9-Year War. They lost a third of it to the Blight, or the potato famine. And then I believe they lost more during a second set of civil wars where they lost, I believe, an eighth of their population. And then they also had a bad winter. It was like the Great Frost, where they then lost all of their storage and had a bad crop the summer right after, and they lost another quarter. And then during the Blight, after the 1/3 died, they also lost another third to immigration out of Ireland. Ireland was a direct colony of Britain for much of its early years. I believe from the 1600s to just to the mid-1900s. But unfortunately, Britain didn't care about Ireland as a country. It only cared about its agricultural exports and didn't work or advance Ireland at all. So Ireland was extremely primitive up until the early 1900s when they started gaining more independence. I also posted a video with a time lapse of the ruler and population of Ireland since recording began. I believe in the early, I think it was around 10,036-ish. Culinary history. Ireland is a very big pub country, a very big alcohol-consuming country. They love their whiskey, always known for it. And usually you find a lot more pubs than you do regular restaurants. In Ireland, the cow was also during the early ages, the cow was the most prized animal on the island. Ireland's known for its milk, it's known for its butter, and it's known for its cheese. So during the early ages, farmers were not killing off cows, they were milking them all. So it was a large status, social status of how many cows you had. Now, they didn't cook the meat often unless they had to or if the cow died, but they would bleed the cows and use their blood as flavorings in many of the things they made, as well as they would usually eat pork or more white meats, such as bacon and chicken. And then during the late 1600s is when the potato was introduced to Ireland and became a very large part of their diet. And I believe it said that the average person in Ireland during the 1600s consumed 110 kilograms of potatoes per day, or not per day, per year. The lay of the land. So Ireland has extremely flat portions of it, and on the farther outer sides, they have more mountains and large hills, I'd say, with a cliff wall on most of the coasts. The flatland made it extremely easy for grazing livestock, and especially during the famine, the British forced most of the Irish to into subjugation almost, where they had to build famine walls, which were these famous walls that you can see in Ireland everywhere, where it's just stone walls that were built for no reason other than to occupy the Irish. And there's stone walls from Dublin all the way to where I was staying in Doolin. And they just never ended, going any direction that they were told. It's extremely interesting seeing all the quarries just everywhere from where they got the stone. Seasonings. The Irish weren't much for using seasonings. They always did stews, so their seasonings were a lot of the more sturdier herbs, such as caraway, thyme, parsley, rosemary, and sage. Not much on that. Regional dishes. You have your Irish Guinness stew, which is usually beef with an Irish stock or a Guinness stock, carrots, celery, seasonings, salt. It's extremely delicious. Colcannon, which is mashed potatoes, but it's added with sautéed greens, which is usually cabbage or swede, and then sausage, which in Dublin is known as coddle, and then whiskey. Yes, they love their whiskey. Influences on America. The Irish had an extremely large impact on America. They helped tremendously during the Civil War, as a battalion coming out of New York, as well as the economy, because they worked extremely hard and for very cheap, especially after the famine, because they needed work, but a lot of Americans weren't trying to hire immigrants. It is said that they are responsible for many of Americans' roads and canals that we see today. Cooking methods, I said stewing, baking, and braising. And actually, this is a half duckling with a cherry red wine sauce on mashed potatoes, which was delicious. I said the United Kingdom's had the largest regional influence. Britain was extremely influential on Ireland during their rule. A lot of items that I found in Ireland that were from the UK were things like Yorkshire pudding, bangers and mash, and fish and chips. Agricultural history, potatoes. Known as the breadbasket of Britain during its rule, Ireland was nothing but an agricultural colony for Britain. Their main export was potatoes and still is, and that the Irish took a massive hit during the potato blight. Fine dining. In Dublin, there's a 2 Michelin star restaurant called the Patrick Gilboud restaurant. I couldn't get a picture of the menu. I really did try. But this restaurant is an a la carte menu, but with a prefix twist. So the apps, entrees, and desserts all have the same price, but there are different combinations that you can make. There are vegan entrees, vegetarian entrees, and then different meat entrees. And so if you mixed the apps were the same price, but the different entrees had different price by their type, if it was vegan, vegetarian, or meat. So if you wanted, it was like combos almost, like an appetizer and entree was 100 or such. And then they also had 4-course tasting menus for 140, it said. And then I know they had an extensive wine list of over 30,000 wines in a cellar. And then finally, my references, with the background being a apple crumble, which was delicious. Had an ice cream on top with a sweet, almost like a creme anglaise sauce up front. And that is my project.